our expert series. I'm here with David Roberts, ADAMA's herbicide technical specialist. David has over 30 years' experience in agronomy, specialising in herbicides and weed management in arable cropping. Throughout this series, David will be providing a range of useful tips and advice to enable you to adopt an integrated approach to overcoming the blackgrass burden. Hello, David.
Hello, Abby. Thank you for that. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this clinic series where, as Abby has just said, I will be looking at how to optimise, how to maximise the levels of control we can achieve, mainly with grass weeds and notably blackgrass, but a lot of the principles will apply to broadleaf weeds as well. One of the key things about planning for getting the highest possible levels of control of these weeds is that we can't rely on herbicides alone. I think everybody understands and appreciates that now. There are so many other cultural factors that need to be adopted. There's rotation, there's cultivation, and many other features that we do need to consider. We should be out looking and doing weed mapping to know where the populations of these pernicious weeds are, so we know how to address them best. Rotations are important. They've changed from, in many areas, let's say 2 cereals followed by an oilseed rape and then repeated. We've got spring cropping now, we've got different break crops being more widely used, and that gives us additional opportunities with stale seedbeds, for example, to get on top of the problem. All these factors are very important and should be included, down to where it's possible, even roguing grassweed populations, so we can stay on top of the problem that they cause us. Once we've covered all these other aspects and we then start planning our herbicide program, one of the choices that we need to make is using a pre-emergence herbicide or using a post-emergence herbicide. And to be fair, in many situations now, it's a combination of both that's required to get the highest levels of control. Each of these approaches, be it pre-emergence or be it post-emergence, has its own advantages and its own disadvantages. But in many cases, particularly thinking later in the series when we go to look more at cereals and blackgrass control, it's very, very difficult now to get adequate levels of control unless we do include a pre-emergence in the programme. Looking more at some of the differences and the advantages and disadvantages between the pre-emergence and the post-emergence approach, pre-emergence, then I've already mentioned, if it's a fallow seed bed, pre-emergence of the crop having been drilled, then we do have the opportunity to use non-selective herbicides. Then we can get a residual herbicide on. Obviously, these are very important when targeting blackgrass specifically, get that residual product on and start building the program. And it is, because of that, one of the key grassweed control timings. Over recent years, there's been somewhat of a move away from the use of pre-emergence herbicides, particularly in oilseed rape, mainly driven by the difficulties we've had in establishing oilseed rape crops, cabbage stem flea beetle being a notable problem. But there is still value to be had from using a pre-emergence. Disadvantages include the difficulty. You're very busy drilling. Do you have time to actually get a pre-emergence product on before the crop and the weeds emerge? And there are clearly a lot of pressures on time at that part of the year because harvest may still be continuing as well. The one that can cause problems throughout the year is if a residual herbicide is applied and the conditions stay dry, then clearly we're not going to get the biggest benefit from them, and that can cause us problems with future parts of the program as well. Moving to post-emergence herbicides, then there are again advantages and disadvantages of this approach, and I think that's partly why it's so important to consider the combination of pre-emergence and post-emergence. Advantages with post-emergence, yes, the weed spectrum's there. You'll know pretty well what weeds that you're expecting in a field or even part of a field, but it's always good to have that confirmation. The weeds are at the cotyledon stage, the first 2 true leaves, and you can clearly identify which weeds they are and the population levels in those fields. The crop is established, so there's less concern, less worry that you're investing in a crop that hasn't even established yet. The crop is there, so clearly it's worth investing in. The additional use of a post-emergence can help in controlling escapees from the pre-emergence treatment. When it comes to potential disadvantages from post-emergence applications, then one of the big ones in the UK is the weather. The later you go into the autumn looking at post-emergence applications, then the greater the chances the weather won't actually allow us into the fields to get the job done. It may also be that some of the weeds may have gone beyond the ideal growth stage, and that can clearly cause problems with final levels of control. So those are some things that do need to be considered. It's not as black and white in that. There are many considerations, and you will have your own considerations in your own fields and on your own farms. But it's worth thinking about all the cultural elements as well as the herbicide choice and whether pre-emergence and or post-emergence is the best approach for you.
Thanks, David. There's a lot to think about there. If you focus in on oilseed rape, what would you recommend for a pre-emergence treatment?
One of the longest standing pre-emergence options available in oilseed rape is to use Metazaclor. ADAMA have a Metazaclor formulation, Sultan. It's been around for a few years. It's very well accepted by the market. People understand how to use it. It has a number of advantages. One is it can have use as a pre-emergence or a post-emergence. So it's not a case of putting some Sultan in the store and then not being able to use it because you've missed the opportunity to go pre-em. There's a recommendation on the label for pre-emergence use, and there's a recommendation on the label for post-emergence use. Therefore, you've got quite a wide window of application. Additionally, one of the advantages I've found over the years through doing field trials is that if the conditions are right, and by that I mean there's a good seed bed, fine firm seed bed, and you do get some moisture in the autumn, Metazaclor does make a contribution to blackgrass control, so it's worth remembering that. It's a useful part of the overall programme. Using it alone won't give you high enough control, but Metazaclor can contribute to that. So there are many advantages in getting some Sultan on. The Metazaclor starts as a good base to the programme, it's got good activity on broadleaf weeds, and it will help the crop establish by reducing the weed competition. One of the things we must always remember when using Metazaclor, and indeed a number of other oilseed rape herbicides, is the requirement to follow the stewardship guidelines that are in place. Unfortunately, because of the time of the year when we do tend to get a lot of rainfall, the drains start to flow, some of these active ingredients can be found in watercourses, so we do need to follow the stewardship guidelines. ADAMA are very strong supporters of this. There's the Oilseed Rape Herbicides campaign. So it's very important that you're aware of the stewardship requirements when using Metazaclor and other products, other herbicides in oilseed rape and in cereals, and that these stewardship guidelines are followed. We do need to retain the use of these active ingredients. If they keep getting found in water, then we may end up with restrictions that will make them less useful.
Thank you, David, and thank you for listening. In our next clinic, we'll be discussing oilseed rape herbicide planning further. For more information on the cultural control methods, please visit our Knowledge Hub on overcoming the blackgrass burden. Thank you.